Hey guys, I'm Kurt. This is my 2023 F150 Lightning Pro standard range. And this is going to be like a 3-month owner review. I've had the truck for a little over 3 months. I purchased it in mid-December and it's end of March right now. Put on a little bit over 5,000 miles on the truck. And I just wanted to go through the highs, the lows. There are a couple lows I need to go through. They're not too bad, but they're definitely worth mentioning for prospective owners or anybody interested in the truck. So we'll do a little walk around and maybe a little drive review. Just see what I think about the truck. Just take you guys along for the ride. And starting out, you can see this is Avalanche Gray, which was a new color for 23. I was gonna get Ice Blue Silver if that was available in the 22s. That didn't work out. Ended up with the 23, and I'm really happy. This is a absolutely stunning color. It's really pretty. There's a lot of new car companies that are coming out with similar colors. Porsche has a similar color, and there's a few others, and yeah, it's really stunning. So we'll do a little walk around. So I've done a few changes to the truck, not too many. I like to keep it pretty standard just so the truck always works on me. I used to always lift my vehicle and do all that kind of stuff, but I'm kind of done monkeying around with them. I want them to just work every time I come to it, especially because I depend on my truck for work. So as you can see on the outside, we have the California stickers. We're here in Southern California, so we get HOV access for 3 years if you have an EV, so that's worth it. I know they're ugly, but I don't mind. I've got the steps, bed cover. I've got another video you guys can check out if you want to see what upgrades I've done to my truck, but they're pretty mellow for the most part. Just liners, and try and take care of my truck as best I can. So for the most part, this is really a standard F-150. Just in a lot of ways, there's only a couple of minute differences if you really want to show it off. Like, I've had a lot of friends come out and they're like, oh, what's new? What makes it an EV? Well, apart from the driving and the undercarriage, if you look at all that, like, it's pretty standard F-150 apart from what's under this, obviously the big frunk. But I haven't had an F-150 in a few years. I had a 2016 a while back, but I know they've upgraded them since then. But this one really has a very rounded nose, much more aerodynamic. Obviously has the shutters, which pretty much all trucks have nowadays. Special headlights and all that, which are nice. I'm scared they're gonna break though. Obviously they look very expensive. They do have rotating technology, so they do adjust around turns, and it's very noticeable. I was very surprised by that considering this was the base model. So coming around the side of the truck, this has the standard 18-inch rims, which the Pro and the XLT share unless you step up to the long-range battery. And these are the rims to get, in my opinion. Anything above 18s is too big, frankly, if you're going to use it as a truck. You go off-road stuff, even 18s can be pushing it sometimes, but if you put it in the dirt, like I do, like, it's so easy to scratch them up. I've actually got a couple scratches on these already, so I can't imagine if I had the 20s, they'd be much worse off. I did add these steps. These are aftermarket. The truck, even though I think it's a little bit lower than a normal 4-wheel drive, it's still a pretty good lift up to get into there without it. I'm 6'1", and I can do it easily, but my wife and dog kind of struggled, so I didn't mind adding the steps. Plus, you have this really low-hanging battery, and if you don't have the steps, the battery is really obvious. So even adding these steps, they're not the lowest hanging part of the truck. So you can feel pretty confident just adding the steps, not worried about it, because the battery is still going to be the lowest hanging piece of the truck. Like I said, I go off-road quite a bit, so ground clearance is very important to me, and knowing that it doesn't sacrifice anything is pretty important. One thing I noticed that maybe a lot of people don't notice this, but the paint quality on this is actually quite good. Like I said, I put 5,000 miles on here, and I haven't seen a single rock chip, which is pretty nice. My previous truck was a 2017 Nissan Titan, and before that was a 2016 F-150. And I don't know, maybe it was just the paint that I had on them. I had blue jean on the F-150, and then just white. It was white and like gunmetal gray. It was a two-tone paint on the Titan, and they were just covered in rock chips. I think the F-150, I put 100,000 miles on it by the time I sold it, and it had at least 100. And then the Nissan was even worse. It was around 200, I'd say. It was around the same mileage, and it was just covered in rock chips. But so far, this Avalanche Gray is really holding up. It's a little dirty, you can see, but I don't see any rock chips so far. So very happy with that, and I have not done anything yet. It's been raining here for the last couple months, which is really appreciated. but haven't had a chance to really treat the paint or do anything like that. So yeah, and I will not be covering towing in this video. I actually haven't done any towing yet. In the summer I will when I break out my toys, but for my job, I work in construction, and occasionally I'll have to pull a water trailer or utility trailer here and there. I just haven't had to do that since I've gotten it, which it's very sporadic. I don't know when that happens, but I'm sure I will, and I'll update accordingly. But I have done a lot of hauling with the truck, and that's one of the really nice things about this. You can see on the door jamb here, this truck is rated at 2,067. Like I said before, this is basically a fully loaded Pro. Obviously that'll go down with the higher trims, but that is really spectacular. I've had a lot of trucks in the past, and most of them are around 1,500 is the high. I know you can spec some with like payload packages and stuff and go higher than that, but this is just totally standard, and it's really great. I've had a little over 1,000 pounds in the back of just equipment and whatnot, and it really handles it really well. Barely notices it, doesn't really squat much at all, which not that squatting is the end of the world, but it's just something to keep track of, and it's nice to have such a nice big number, so it gives you a lot of headway if you load it up to go for the weekend or out to the job site. That's really appreciated. So here's a quick interior shot. We can see these are the vinyl seats that come with the Pro. Like I said in a different video, I really like these. I have a bad back, and even though there's no lumbar in these, I've never had a problem, and I've driven this thing for many hours straight. Not a problem at all. But yeah, otherwise, like, comes standard with the big screen. And then the 23s now have heated seats standard, which you can see right there. Sorry, the truck's so dusty. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to clean it, and it's my work truck slash personal vehicle, so it gets used a lot. Can't keep it clean all the time, or else I'd be spending my entire life just cleaning the damn thing. So it is what it is. But yeah, the interior's really nice, and I have very little complaints. Like I said, this truck's just even though it's a base model, it's very well equipped, and it's one of the nicer vehicles I've ever owned. Even though there's a lot of plastic here and there, but feature-wise, man, this thing is absolutely loaded. So, well, for me at least, and it ain't a Lariat or anything like that, but for me, this thing is fantastic. So yeah, well, let's take it for a spin, and I'll run through a few of my thoughts. So here we are going for a ride in my F150 Lightning Pro, and if you're expecting this big 6,250 pound truck to handle like a car because they added independent suspension and put the weight low down, you're gonna be very disappointed, because this thing is not a car. It is still very much a truck. Even with the independent rear suspension, you still get some kind of trucky characteristics from the rear. Not as bad as like the hopping and whatnot over like really rough roads or anything like that, but there is a little bit of it. And the truck does this kind of shimmy thing at certain times when you hit bumps here and there. It's still that ladder frame, so it hasn't totally cured that. And then the handling too. It's a heavy truck, and even though like you see things about the Rivian just absolutely tearing up canyons and whatnot, you're not going to be doing that in stock form. It's very soft suspension. You get a lot of roll here and there around corners. It's not very confidence inspiring, but at the same time, it's a truck. Like, if you've ever driven a truck before, you're not going to be surprised. Like, it's exactly that. So like, I've been driving trucks forever, and I'm used to slowing down a lot before going around sharp turns. Like, that's just how it is. And steering wise, all that, if you've driven an F150 or another full-size truck, you're not going to be surprised either. It's very similar in that regard. Where it's not the same is obviously in acceleration. Trucks today have gotten pretty fast. They're 6.5 seconds. Some of the bigger ones are way faster than that, but this thing is so fast, especially off the line. It's just an absolute rocket. The four wheels just really hook up. The front will actually spin quite easily, but if you turn off traction control, it'll really just light up, and it'll slow you down a lot, but it's pretty funny. I've got my draggy here, which I'll use to do a little 0 to 60 run. I did one before on whatever the payment here. It's not prepped or anything like that, obviously, and I think I got like 4.6, 4.7 seconds, which on Ford's website, they rated at 4.1, and maybe in optimal conditions, I do believe it. We're 75% battery right now, so I doubt that's going to happen. But regardless, this thing is just so quick off the line. Almost nothing can hang with it except for another really fast electric car, any kind of sports car, anything like that. I've got a 2003 Corvette Z06,
and it's rated at 3.9 0 to 60. And up at speed, I think the Corvette could take this, but off the line, you never get a good enough launch to even get close to this thing. And by the time you let the clutch out and do all that, obviously new cars, they really don't have manuals anymore, which is a shame. But yeah, it just goes to show like just how fast this thing is. And on the daily driver, this thing is really, really untouchable. Except for another fast electric car like a Tesla Model 3 Performance or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. You can just, any gap in the freeway you see, you can absolutely just romp on it and just fly up there. And remember, this is the standard range battery, so it's 100 horsepower or whatever, less than the long range. So that should be even faster, despite the weight being more. I think in some videos I've seen, this is actually a little bit faster off the line. And then once you're up to speed, the more horsepower, heavier truck can reel it in and pass it relatively quickly. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest difference. And then obviously you have regen. If you like regen, you're not forced into it either way, like you are with Tesla. My wife has a Model 3 rear-wheel drive, and there's only one setting, and it's basically full regen all the time, which I personally like. But this truck, it does give you the option. You can turn it off completely, so it just behaves like a normal truck, and then you just get blended brakes. So it'll automatically regen when you're hitting the pedal, but you won't know the difference, and then it will feed in the friction brakes as it sees fit. So it'll feel totally normal to you, and it'll even creep. I do have that turned off. I like how electric cars drive. I really like it, actually. Just one pedal driving is just, once you get used to it, it's so much nicer, especially if you're in traffic or bumbling around town, whatever it is. And I like watching the statistics and seeing all the numbers, all the kilowatts and whatnot go back into the battery. That's fun for me, so I enjoy that. But overall, the truck is super quiet. Just such a good daily driver. If that's what you're planning to use it for, which, I mean, that's what electric cars are best at, in my opinion. So if you're buying this to let it sit in the garage and just drive it on the weekend, you're doing yourself a disservice. The only problem, obviously, it's still a big truck, so parking and whatnot, there's no rear steer or anything like that, which in my opinion is a good thing, because it's one less thing to break. But yeah, in small parking lots, it's still a big truck, just like any other big truck. It's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to park, but that shouldn't really be surprising to anybody. So yeah, some of the highs, definitely super quiet, comfortable to drive, very well equipped, obviously incredibly fast, just one of the fastest things on the road, not faster than 99% of cars out there, especially offline, and it's just silent power. So in my Corvette, when I floor it, everybody knows it. Everybody tries to block you, not let you pass or anything like that. You don't have that problem here because you're just a silent assassin. So yeah, that's a big plus. For me, the big reason I bought this was just the cost per mile to drive. We do have solar panels, and our electricity is relatively cheap out here compared to expensive gas in Southern California. Shouldn't surprise you. So this thing costs a fraction of what my old truck cost to drive. My last truck was the Nissan Titan. It was lifted with 34-inch tires. Got about 15 miles per gallon if I was treating it nicely, which I did most of the time. And even then, depending on what I was doing, I could still get it pretty close to single digits without even trying. So that truck was very expensive to drive out here with $4, $5, $6 a gallon gas. Now with this, I'm doing easily about a fifth of what that costs. So like I said, doing 20,000 miles a year with my old truck, that would cost me something like, it depends on the price of gas. Obviously, it's been fluctuating like crazy in the last couple of years, but between $4,000 and $6,000. So that's a lot of money just to spend on gas. And with this Lightning with electricity, we pay between 12 and 15 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on time and how much we use for the month. But then we have solar panels, which takes a big chunk of that out. Most months where it's sunny, we won't pay anything at all. But even if I did, I calculated this truck would cost me to do the same mileage about $1,200 a year. So that's amazing. That's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year saving, depending on the price of gas and all that. Our electricity has been amazingly consistent. I'm expecting it to go up at some point, but regardless, it's still an amazing value to drive. And obviously then there's all the maintenance. I did all the maintenance myself, as much as I could, unless something was under warranty, then I would take it in for that. But I have all the tools and whatnot, so I can do almost anything. I won't rebuild the transmission, but short of that, I can do almost anything in my garage. And but I would still spend a lot on oil, and I'm pretty meticulous about transmission oils and all that. So it added up. It wasn't as terrible as some people. If you went to the dealer for everything, you'd be paying out the nose, which I wasn't necessarily. But this thing, obviously, tires, and then I'm sure there's going to be failures and stuff. I expect this thing to chew through CV shafts pretty quickly. Not 10,000 miles or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if 50,000 miles of CVs are cooked or something like that, or making really bad noise. We've been hearing some that have had premature failures, like right off the bat. That's unfortunate. That's probably more of a manufacturing error, but with the amount of torque this thing uses off the line, that's really just going to torture CV shafts. So stuff like that. And then obviously there's filters and whatever else. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so far I've really loved the truck. I do have the Pro Power onboard system. I did not get the house system. It's just way too expensive. It'd be at least 10,000, if not more. Even though they give you a lot of the parts for free, just all the labor to hook it up, and I definitely have to pull permits and whatnot. And our power maybe goes off once a year, maybe, and it's rarely for more than an hour or so. So you just can't justify it with that. Even though you hear about California is losing power all the time, that's really only in certain areas. Ours is really not affected, so not a problem there. So in worst case, I could just run some extension cords, keep our fridge on, or plug in a portable air conditioner or something. So now I'll go through some of the downsides I've had with the truck. I had two issues with it, and both of them not the end of the world. One was just more of an annoyance than anything, but the first one was basically, I gotta pull over, there's an ambulance coming. The first one was that the steering was not straight. And this could happen to any car, but I mean, you expect new cars. My wife's car actually had the exact same problem. The steering wheel is not perfectly straight. And I don't necessarily think the steering wheel was crooked, because I've taken the steering wheel off. I swapped it for a leather one. And you can't really put it on wrong. All the adjustment is done through the control arms, I think. So the alignment was definitely off. It wasn't bad, but it was, when you get on the freeway, you'd have to hold the steering wheel just a hair to the left, just to keep it going straight. For a while, I thought it was maybe just because how they grade the roads just to get water off of them. I thought maybe the truck was just really prone to being affected by that grade, and maybe I had to like kind of steer into it. But after driving for a couple hundred miles, this can't be right. Certain times I'd have to turn it more than others and whatnot, and it was clearly not right. So luckily I took that down to the dealer, got an appointment, they got it fixed. So that was fine, but apparently that's becoming a real issue with a lot of cars nowadays. So I don't know what's up with that. And then issue number two was there's a modem on the truck that connects to the internet, and you can load your app and see the percentage charge on the truck and any details about that, or charging or whatnot. And when I first got the truck, it worked perfectly, no problem at all. And then I got an over-the-air update, and the truck would go about 3 days with it working perfectly, and then you couldn't connect to the truck at all. And this is very known about. If you go on the forums or anything like that, they're very aware of this. But what you have to do is pull the negative cable on the 12-volt battery, or there's a fuse you can pull too. I always did the 12-volt because I didn't really look into the fuse thing. And then that would fix it temporarily, like I said, for 3, 4, 5 days, something like that. And then it would happen again and again and again. And this went on, and I got to the point where I didn't even fix it most of the time. I would just let it go, and it would go for a week or two and not come back. Finally, it would eventually, sometimes. But if I was going somewhere and I wanted it working, like I needed to monitor charge, if I was driving out to the desert, then I would go ahead and pull that cable and fix it. However, in the last week or two, I did get another update, and that seems to have fixed it. I have not touched it since. I've actually gotten 2 updates in the last week or 2. Both seem pretty minor, but they did mention the modem, and like I said, I have not had a problem. So that seems to have worked itself out. If you buy a truck in the future, you're probably okay. Although it could come back, who knows? It was probably just a bug with one of the updates. Rather annoying, not the end of the world. The truck still worked perfectly. It was just the app and monitoring the charging and all that kind of stuff. So, but regardless, it did work all the time. But yeah, like I said, just an annoyance. So the first question everyone always asks me is, what is the range? Like I said, this is the standard range battery. It's 98 kilowatts usable, 98 kilowatt hours, I'm sorry. And then gross, I think it's like 106, 107, something like that. So it's a big battery, but this thing is not quite a brick, but it's a brick with some rounded off edges. So it uses a lot of energy. I do pretty good. I drive pretty conservatively. Around town, you could do 3 relatively easily if you're not running the heater or anything like that. But on the freeway, it goes down quite a bit. I've done some trips out to the desert and back to San Diego and back, and I get about 2.3 to 2.4 on the freeway. That's driving like 68 to 70. Maybe the air conditioning a little bit, no heater really, maybe a little heated seats, and that's it. Just trying to be as conservative as possible. I do have a tonneau cover, but in my opinion, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody likes to think it does, but we've seen all the Mythbusters videos, and everybody's proven it time and time again. It doesn't make much of a difference. Some people even think it hurts the range, but I like it for the security for my stuff back there, so it's nice to have for that reason. But yeah, so 2.3, 2.4 on the freeway, 98 kilowatt hours. That's a little under 240, maybe let's call it 230 really, which is pretty good on the freeway considering the range it's rated at 240. So I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, I'm at 4,800 miles right now. Had it for 3 months. I drive job sites all over Southern California, and I have never DC fast charged it. That's not true. I did stop at one just to try it, and lo and behold, it was broken. It did charge, but it was only getting like 35 kilowatts. Rather annoying. This was here in Corona, pretty close to where I live. So I just did a try, and it failed me. But like I said, I haven't needed it. I've done a bunch of 200-mile days, and I've always made it pretty comfortably. I mean, I say comfortably, I've made it with like 10% charge left, or maybe a little more than that. So yeah, I think if you drive conservatively, even on all freeway, you can do 200 miles pretty solidly. Maybe 220 before the truck's really flashing at you and getting pretty mad at you getting that low on range. But yeah, and this is a NMC battery, I believe. Fix that or let me know if I'm wrong, but the power does drop off as you get pretty low in battery. I did some road trip videos, or some of my job site videos, just going out to the desert and back, you can see. And the power, I think it's around like 25%, you start losing power. Not the end of the world. The truck's so fast, it's not like the truck's not gonna move if you're down to 80% power or something, but you'll lose like 5% every couple percent after 25%. So once you're down to like 10%, you might only be at 50-60% battery or power or something like that, which, like I said, is fine. You only use about 10% to cruise on the freeway, so that's a non-issue. But yeah, so not amazing range, but I have yet to have a problem with it. Now this summer I will be towing. We have a boat I like to take up to the mountains up in Big Bear Lake. It's about 3,500 pounds, pretty small boat, but I mean it's light, but it's a single axle, and it's a 20-foot boat. So towing that up the mountain, that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. I'm planning on charging at the bottom of the mountain, just to give myself the best possible chance. It's 40 miles from the base of the mountain to the lake, and you go from about 2,500 feet in elevation to 6,000. But there's only one part of it that's really steep, and then the rest is pretty gradual, and it's lower speed, so that'll help me. It's not like I'm doing 70 up the hill. That would really kill it. The lower speeds will be nice. So yeah, so if the range works for you, you'll probably be fine. You see a lot of these people, they're like, oh, I need 500 miles of range, yada, yada, yada. That would be great. I would love that. But you need to stop and think about your situation and say, do I really need that much range? This truck is a little close for me, but the cost difference between going from this up to an XLT extended range, for the 22s, that went from like 40,000 to 75, whatever it was, something like that. And that's just crazy. That's almost double the price. So I could not justify that. I said, I'll live with the smaller battery. I'll charge up here and there, no big deal. This thing is still saving me so much time. With my old truck, I would stop at the gas station every week. That's 10 minutes every week that I lost just filling up with gas or stopping at the gas station. I've never done that. I've had this thing for 3 months and I have yet to stop anywhere other than my house to charge up. So yeah, I haven't lost any time. Now when we do a road trip, yeah, I'm gonna have to stop and charge for 30 minutes, an hour here and there, whatever it is, which stinks, but I'll still be way in the black. So that's not a problem for me. I mean, that's at least my thought. Sorry for the rant, but yeah, just think about your situation. Do you really think you'll be charging more than a couple times a year, even with a small battery? Like buying the big battery just to avoid one trip a year where you could make it without charging? How is that worth it? That's crazy. I doubt your time's worth that much money. So yeah, think about that before you act. But yeah, rant over. This thing does get a lot of attention. Obviously, it's the Pro. Not everyone knows what it is. Your typical Ferrari supercar guy not gonna know what it is. But your average working Joe, I've had so many people come up to me and be like, "Oh my God, how did you get the Pro?" And frankly, I got super lucky, incredibly lucky. I'm one of the few that signed up right away and got the phone call and was able to order one. I wasn't able to order one in 2022. They sold out, and then I deferred my order. But they called me summer of 2022 and said, "Hey, do you want a 2023 Pro?" Or not called, but I got the email and all that. And I said, yes, got it at the price it was originally promised. So I paid, it was $45,000 with the options I had. And after California tax and registration, all that, I paid $51 basically out the door before any rebates. So we get $2,000 from California, $7,500 from the feds. So yeah, just really happy with the truck, really great. We'll do a couple little pulls here, and then I'll do a 0 to 60 with the drag. So here we are, just cruising 40 miles an hour, and then just punch it. It's hard to tell from that, but yeah, oh my God, it's just so fast. So again, like I said, we're cruising 35 miles an hour. You can kind of see out the window, and then just really at 65, 70, yeah, we are absolutely cooking in this thing. So even though it's got the smaller battery, less horsepower, she goes pretty good. All right, I'm gonna set up the draggy and we'll do a little 0 to 60. We're at, let's see, probably 75% battery right now, so let's see what she can do.
30.
Jesus.
60.
Here's the big feature in the front, the frunk, which is great. I absolutely love it. I'm happy it's here. It's about the size of a sedan trunk. Very useful space. If you're going on a road trip, open it up, put all your stuff in, great. There is one thing that I've noticed, and it's if you work out of your truck. Let's say you keep all your tools in here, and then you're constantly running back and forth, gotta grab a hammer, gotta grab XYZ, whatever it is. This thing's really slow to open up, like it could be 10, 15 seconds sometimes. From pressing the button. Maybe not that long, that's an exaggeration, but it just takes too long, plus the beeping. It's just not practical. So typically I keep my tools in the back or in the back doors, back seat, and that way I can just pop it open, grab something. Here, if I have to run up and sit there and wait for it every time, not great. So that's annoying, but still very happy to have this. This is a great use of space. I don't use it as much as I probably should because of that slow opening reason, but like I said, going on road trips and stuff, can't beat it. It's fantastic. Wrong button. That was like 12 seconds. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to touch on was just off-roading with this truck. Like I said, my old truck was a 2017 Nissan Titan 4-wheel drive with a 3-inch lift and 34s, and for me it was virtually unstoppable. This is not that good at off-roading. The traction is fantastic. The all-wheel drive system works great. It's got a lock in the back, fantastic stuff. The biggest problem is just the battery just hangs really low. I've dragged the belly quite a few times on not that difficult of obstacles, and it's fine. It's got skid plates and stuff, so we can take it. It's not a big deal, but that is going to be a limiting factor. On top of that, the rear suspension, because it's independent, it does not flex. The truck, if you put the front wheel into a hole, the truck will lunge forward and the back wheel will come off the ground. Again, not the end of the world. The other thing I didn't like was there's no low range, obviously, and you don't have that momentum of an internal combustion engine just constantly running. So when you're going up a hill, it's like it's smooth until it gets rough. Then it can be a herky jerky, where you go from no power to full power, and so the truck will get hung up on something, and then the computer will have to think about it, and then it will push you over. And then I also had a problem with the truck wanting to roll backwards, since there was no constant like torque converter pushing against you. You'd get up to an obstacle, you'd go up and over it, and then you'd let out the gas, and the truck would roll back a couple feet before the hill hold, or you would grab the brakes or something like that. Not great. But that said, most of the things you're going to want to do with this truck, it's going to do just fine. Trails, all that stuff. It does have, like I said, that skid plate and stuff underneath, so that's really useful. You'll probably use that. Yeah, it's okay. Honestly, it's just okay off-road. If you want to lift it and stuff, that's great. That's really going to hurt your range though, and I'm just not willing to do that. The range is, I use all of it as it is, and I don't want to give that up. So I'll gladly drag the belly over a few things if it means I can keep the high range. So just something to consider. If you want something that's a real hardcore off-roader, you might want to look elsewhere. Just my opinion.
And one thing I wasn't really expecting, I think I did see something about it, but I kind of blew it off, is the torque steer. This thing does torque steer, sometimes more than others. Normally it really doesn't, but if there's like any loose material on the right or left, the wheel will saw to one side if you punch it, and the wheel starts spinning. So that's something just to keep in mind. I've never really had a really powerful front-wheel drive car, so I've never really experienced it. I've only had rear-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, and I have had some low-power front-wheel drive cars, but it wasn't really a thing for those. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. I think I saw some discussion about this, but it sounds like Ford could have fixed that by detuning the front motor or pulling power. But honestly, I'm glad they didn't, because even though you get a little torque steer, burning out with the front wheels on a all-wheel drive car while launching from a light is pretty fun. It's pretty cool. So I'm really glad Ford didn't do that. It might make it a hair slower just because that power is just getting spun up, and by pulling back you might go a little bit faster, but oh well. I like it, honestly. I like when cars or whatever aren't software limited. Just give you the full beans when you ask for it. Don't artificially limit stuff. Just give it to me, I'll deal with it. Really, and like I said, it's not dangerous or anything like that. You might hit something. It might pull to one side if you're not expecting it, and you might glance on something. So just be aware, and you'll be just fine. So yeah, that about does it. Thanks for watching. Go over some of the quick points. Yeah, I really love the truck. Love the color. It's beautiful. Paint quality seems really nice. It's fast. It's quiet. It's comfortable. It's dirt cheap to run. Your case may vary. I don't know where you live, your electricity rates, or how cheap your gas is. But for us, it works really nicely. So it's been great. Like having the backup Pro Power on board for if our power ever goes out. It has yet to do that, and I don't expect it to very often, but it's nice to have. Yeah, just really happy with it. Obviously, got a great deal on this truck. I was one of the few lucky ones that managed to get it for the original price. So obviously, you're probably more than likely not going to be able to do that. However, these trucks, they're starting to ramp them up as far as I can tell. And I think as they hit the road, prices are coming back down to earth. So hopefully incentives and stuff will come back so that people can get into these things for a lot cheaper. And then obviously there's new generations of truck and competition. So the future's bright. The future's bright with these things. So yeah, just think about your situation and see if something like this would work for you. If you're towing across the country all the time or doing road trips nonstop, you probably don't want this. If you can get by with something more efficient, like my wife's Tesla, fantastic road tripper. It's great. This, while it's going to have a lot more space and be more comfortable in that regard, that's great. But the charging leaves a little bit to be desired. So I've heard. I have yet to try a DC fast charger. So you probably might not want something like this. You might want a Tesla or something like that that can actually do that, or even a gas car. I don't know. Your situation, like I said, your situation may vary. But if most of your driving is in town or within 220 miles, pushing a little bit, but you're gonna do great. This is a fantastic vehicle. Now, obviously, winter affects it. It does not have a heat pump. It only has resistive heating, so that's something to keep in mind. You want to try and run the heater as little as possible. Like I said, I'm in Southern California. The coldest it ever gets is like mid-30s, and that's like middle of the night or right in the morning on a couple days a year. This year we had quite a few because we had all these winter storms coming in, which is nice. I like it. But if you're in northern Minnesota or something like that, you might struggle to get those range numbers during those winter months and when it's cold. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed watching and listening to my rambling and non sequiturs and whatever else I mentioned. We'll see when I string this thing together. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. I guess I need to say that. Whatever. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, just let me know in the comments. I'm sure I'll get to it. If I don't answer right away in the next day or two, I'll probably get to it. I have a real job, so this is just a fun hobby I'm trying out. So see what happens. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll see you on the next one.